there, fantasy owners. Welcome to Lift the Cup Fantasy, or LTC Fantasy as some call it. And we're going to keep rolling on with our team-by-team fantasy reviews. Today we're going to look at the Arizona Coyotes and take a look, break it down into goaltenders, defensemen, forwards, who led them in different statistical categories, who's the biggest disappointment fantasy-wise, biggest surprise fantasy-wise, and who was worth keeping on a weekly basis, not just a streamer basis. These episodes will be coming out every few days, so don't forget to subscribe. That way, if you want to catch your favorite team's episode, your rivals episode, you want to catch all 32, which I would like, or just some teams that you don't really think about, and what better to do in the off-season than talk a little bit of fantasy hockey anyways. So we'll get into it. For goalies, who led them in games played was Karel Vejmelka. I hope I said it right. He had 52 games played this year, first time overseas. Wins was also Vejmelka at 13. He led them in goals against average at 3.68, and also a .898, was the best on the team in Arizona. Obviously, with goals against average over 3.5 and a save percentage sub 900, it was obviously a long season in Arizona. But considering that it was his first season coming over from overseas, and the roster that Arizona had, his numbers were actually kind of respectable in that sense. We'll jump into defensemen. Who led them in goals was Shane Gostisbehere at 14. He also led them in assists at 37 and points for 51. Considering it was just a salary dump by Philadelphia, that turned out to be some pretty nice value for Arizona on the back end. Who led them in plus-minus was Janice Moser at minus 10. Obviously, rough season, minus 10 being the best on the back end, but it was a long season in the desert, that's for sure. Who led them in hits was Dyson Mayo, at 129. He also led them in blocks at 133 blocks. And he did this in only 62 games. He didn't dress for 20 games this year and led them in hits and blocks, which is a nice. Shots on goal was Shane Gostisbehere. If he's led all the offensive stats, probably leads in shots on goal at 151. Moving up front, forwards who led them. Goals was Clayton Keller at 28, considering he missed big chunk at the end of the season. Assists was Phil Kessel, 44 assists. Considering he's known for a goal scorer to lead the team in assists, that's a kind of a shocker when you take a look at their whole team stats there. Points was Clayton Keller at 63. He led them in points, and he only dressed for, I think it was 67 games. Plus-minus was Clayton Keller, +3. So there's actually a plus player on Arizona, considering how long their season was. Hits was Lawson Krause. He had 181 hits, so the young lad threw that big body around quite a bit. Blocks is Travis Boyd at 55 blocks. He led the forward ranks in blocks, and he also did play on the top line for a fair chunk there. Shots on goal, if you're going to lead them in goals, you're probably leading them in shots, was Clayton Keller at 177 shots on goal. Biggest disappointment from Arizona, for me, was Phil Kessel. I know he's getting up there in age and everything, but he's known for being a goal scorer, and he only had 8 goals this year, and he played in all 82 games. Sure, he led them in assists, but when you think of Kessel, you're thinking of like a 40-goal scorer and 15 assists. It just wasn't there this year. The goals, he couldn't put the biscuit in the basket for some reason. Biggest surprise for me was Clayton Keller. Yes, he missed a big chunk, but he really emerged this year. He was almost a point-per-game player, having 63 points in 67 games, and that's a nice point total considering how long Arizona's season was, definitely being in the desert there. Fantasy relevant on a weekly basis for me, there's only a couple again, that being Keller and Schmaltz. Both of them were just a hair under a point-per-game player. They do have some players coming up. I'd also put Chikrin probably in that category because he missed a huge chunk, but he was pretty good the second half of the season before he got hurt again. Other than that, to me, it depends what you're looking for. If you're in a roto league, Dyson Mayo, might be worth streaming, but they're more the streamer categories. Kessel on an odd on a light night, etc. But other than that, there's really Chychrun, possibly Gostisbehere, Keller, and Schmaltz. So I do hope you did enjoy today's episode. We'll be out with another one in a few days. If you did like it, remember to hit like, hit subscribe, and remember that notification bell. And enjoy the off-season, fantasy owners.